You ever wake up one morning, take a sip of your too hot coffee and think, well, I guess it's finally happened. My HOA's actually lost its goddamn mind. No, then buckle up, friend, because I'm about to tell you how my family's pond. Yeah, the one my granddad dug by hand in '62 almost got bulldozed by a bunch of neighbors in matching khakis who thought a certified letter could erase 60 years of blood, sweat, and tadpoles. Picture this. It's 6 months after I buried Dad. Grief's still sticking to me like static. Everything's off kilter, and then bam, a letter lands in my mailbox, thick and official, signed by Delilah Thornwood, Queen of the Neighborhood Busybody Brigade. The headline, Redrawing of Willowbrook Property Map. Subtext. That pond you grew up fishing in belongs to us now. Pay up or we'll fine you into next Tuesday. I'm standing on my deck mug in hand watching Delilah strut toward me in a silk scarf that probably costs more than my mortgage, flanked by lawyers and a troop of surveyors. They're stretching tape across my shoreline, photographing cattails in the morning mist like they're on an episode of CSI Backyard Edition. All I can think is, this can't be real. You can bulldoze Mrs. Kowalski's roses for unauthorized landscaping, but you do not bulldoze Grandpa's pond. I keep quiet at first. Old habits. But when you push a Kellerman, especially one clutching an ironclad deed, you better be ready for some sparks. Let me rewind a sec. Introduce myself proper. Name's Farther Kellerman. Yeah, odd name. Blame my mom. And I'm a 52-year-old retired electrician. Thought I was headed for a quiet retirement, maybe fix up my childhood home, listen to bullfrogs, watch the pond sparkle. Instead, I'm suddenly in a war with the HOA, which is apparently the only institution in America more ruthless than the IRS. Dad held out 3 weeks after I moved back lung cancer, just like Mom. In those last days, he'd point out the window at the pond, voice gravelly from chemo. Don't let 'em steal it farther. That water's ours. Been Kellerman water since Eisenhower. And man, he meant it. That pond wasn't just a water feature. It was the backbone of our family, a little patch of sanity in a sea of McMansions. A place with 8-foot bass, spring-fed so clean you could see the bottom, even during the drought of '88. Now, being an electrician, you get a sixth sense for details, property lines, utility easements, whose wires run where. Let's just say Delilah picked the wrong guy to mess with. She's one of those folks who rearrange your spice rack while critiquing your marriage. Real estate mogul turned HOA, Empress third term running. Her perfume hits you before she does. Clipboard's always out nails like 10 tiny ice picks, and her husband's construction company somehow lands every mandatory compliance upgrade. I watched her steamroll the neighbor's Widow Patterson fined $15,000 for shutters out of code right after her husband died. The Kowalskis out over ceramic gnomes. People kept their heads down. Me, I was busy grieving. Didn't even see the ambush coming till the emergency meeting notice showed up. Walking into that beige humming community center felt like stepping into a kangaroo court. Delilah up front projecting survey maps like she's the DA in a murder trial. As you can see, she drones the pond monopolized by the Kellermans is a severely underutilized community asset. Then she waves a sheet of paper. Mr. Kellerman's late father transferred pond management to HOA control. The signature's a joke. Dad's penmanship was an engineer's neat square, unmistakable. This looked like a ransom note. She laid it on thick. We know you're grieving, Mr. Kellerman, but community needs outweigh personal feelings. $500 fines daily for noncompliance. Pay or lose everything. I left that meeting like a ghost. Neighbors wouldn't meet my eyes. That night, bullfrogs sang while I sat by the water, 2 decisions gnawing at my insides. 1, Delilah picked the wrong retiree to mess with. 2, she's about to learn what happens when you try to outsmart a guy who's spent 30 years wiring power grids. Didn't take long for her to fire back. 3 days later, the Army rolled in diesel trucks, survey crews, orange stakes popping up like radioactive weeds around my pond. Delilah, sitting pretty in a folding chair, sips her drink and watches like a Roman emperor. Community water access points, they call it. Only problem. My family's owned that dirt since Eisenhower played golf. I storm out in my robe and boots, holler at the crew chief. He doesn't even look up HOA boundary survey, sir. Delilah rises, voice dripping with condescension. We discussed this. The community voted. We must manage our shared resources. Lady, that's called trespassing. She waves a fat folder, municipal codes, legalese, thicker than swamp mud. Perhaps you should research your covenants. Yeah, maybe you should try reading a deed, sweetheart. And so to the courthouse basement I go. The archives reek of old paper and despair, but Beatrice Montgomery, queen of the file room, remembers my grandfather like it was yesterday. She brings out the original deeds fee, simple, absolute, signed in fountain pen, 1958. Translation, it's our land. Always was, always will be, unless you're planning to dig up Grandpa himself and ask for permission. Turns out the HOA can't retroactively claim what didn't exist when their bylaws were scribbled up. But Beatrice whispers something chilling. Delilah's been sniffing around for months, asking which properties have old folks who's vulnerable. This isn't about water features. It's predatory real estate dressed up as community betterment. Back home, I spread out blueprints like a general planning a siege. A call to my old buddy Rick at Municipal Water Services, and 20 minutes later, I've got the mother-lode original city drainage maps. Guess what? That decorative pond, it's the keystone of Willowbrook's entire flood system. Every drain, every basin, every overflow route all flow through my land. The irony. While Delilah tries to steal my pond, she's actually dependent on me for the neighborhood's water management. Without my pond, her empire's literally underwater. Next thing I know, a certified envelope slaps my doorstep. Cease and desist, threat of $10,000 lawsuit if I block their emergency drainage improvements. The codes she cites are bogus. I'd know I spent decades reading city regulations between lunch breaks. But then twist incoming Channel 7 calls. Care to comment on water rights violations? Mr. Kellerman? Delilah's already poisoned the well with her version. My phone goes dark before I can explain. Classic. That night, Jake Martinez, my neighbor, an ace with a clipboard, shows up. He's got a file thicker than a phone book. Been digging farther. This goes deep. Jake's the kind of guy you want in your foxhole handy with tools, honest as the day's long, and the only one who never bought into the HOA's scare tactics. He's mapped out every property Delilah's crew targeted. The story's always the same: sudden fines, legal threats, and when folks can't pay lowball buyouts. Then surprise, the land flips for luxury condos. But Jake finds something wild in the Willowbrook development contracts. Section 47C, he says, grinning like a kid who found buried treasure. Turns out Delilah's own father wrote the clause that gave my family perpetual water management rights. They've been planning this heist for 30 years. I barely sleep. Sometime past 3 a.m., I spot fresh tire tracks by the pond. Next morning, there's orange spray paint on trees, markings for demolition. That's it. You want to fight? I'll show you how an electrician fights. Then disaster chemical stench wakes me at dawn. Fish floating belly up, pond water black as motor oil, everything dead or dying. Hazmat vans roll up. Delilah in white feigns concern. So tragic farther, health inspectors declare an emergency, immediate drainage required. In plain English, bulldoze the pond, bill me for it. But you can't fool a guy who knows chemicals. This isn't fertilizer, this is warfare. I call Roger retired water treatment guru. He tests samples and his face goes pale, military-grade copper sulfate. Ammonium compounds, you need federal permits to buy this. Only 3 local companies can and wouldn't you know it. Thornwood Construction is one. But the real revelation, Roger pulls old geological surveys. Grandpa's fishing hole sits atop a mineral spring worth millions, lithium-sulfur therapeutic water that pharmaceutical giants would kill for. That's what Delilah's after. And as if things couldn't get more, Hollywood security cameras catch 2 goons planting a remote disconnect on my power line, ready to cut my lights, my well, my security. So when they kill my power at 3:47 a.m. and come to finish the job, I fire up the diesel generator, flip the cameras to night vision, and watch as Delilah's hired crew moves in to drain the pond dry. Only thing is, while they were busy faking documents and buying off the town, they missed one tiny detail buried under my tomatoes: is the main drainage control valve for the whole damn subdivision. I could flood every McMansion from here to Main Street, and it'd be 100% legal as long as I document the threat to my property. You see where this is going, right? Next, HOA meeting. Federal agents are waiting in the wings. News cameras at the ready. Delilah grandstands about community safety. Then Agent Finley steps up, projects a slideshow of fake permits, wire fraud, environmental terrorism, and audio clips of Delilah plotting to provoke me into making threats on camera. Neighbors gasp. That's when I walk to the front deed in one hand, blueprints in the other. My family's owned this land since 1958. Your entire neighborhood runs on infrastructure beneath my feet. The only threat here is the folks who tried to steal it from me. The look on Delilah's face when they cuffed her, man, if I could bottle that and sell it, I'd retire twice. Justice wasn't just poetic, it was clinical. 8 years for environmental terrorism, 12 for her old man's chemical crimes, $47 million in damages split among the families they conned. Properties restored, community association dissolved, and for the first time in decades, the neighbors actually acted like neighbors. Jake headed up the volunteer pond restoration. Kids who once hid from me learned to fish where I did. The county named our street Kellerman Way. Elena, the lawyer who took our case, started a nonprofit defending homeowners from HOA abuse. My own little twist on the American dream. I guess sometimes the only way to save what's yours is to dig and document everything and never ever underestimate the power of a stubborn electrician with a pipe wrench and a long memory. So here's my late in life epiphany. It's not about ponds or property lines or even sticking it to the bad guys, though trust me, that part feels pretty damn sweet. It's about the invisible systems, wires, water trust that hold a community together. Lose those and you're just living next to strangers with better lawyers. Funny, isn't it? Delilah thought she could steal my family's legacy with signatures and scare tactics. Turns out karma's got a longer reach than any HOA. But let me ask you this. Where's the line between protecting your home and becoming what you fear? What do we owe our neighbors? And when does the greater good turn into an excuse for stealing what isn't yours? Drop your own war stories in the comments. Let's hear about the battles you've fought, the victories you've won, or the losses that still sting. Is justice ever really served, or do we just get lucky sometimes? And if your HOA tried to take your backyard, would you fight or fold? I'll be on my deck, beer in hand, waiting to hear your stories.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.